No handout.
No handouts.
Need to get these papers.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and open with a word of prayer today. Our gracious Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for each of these ladies who is here today that wants to hear things that you have to say to us about how we should be living our lives and why we have health issues, because we think we're doing everything right. So, Lord, I just pray that your Holy Spirit would come today and to teach us and help us to understand the truths that you have for us. And I thank you for this now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So this week was very hard for me trying to figure out where I was going and what the Lord was saying. And the direction I started to go, it turns out, it looks like the Lord wants me to turn that into our next Bible study instead of sharing it in this class. And so it looks like our next Bible study is going to deal with what the Bible has to say about fasting, what it is, all the different kinds of fasts, why would we do them, all of those different things. And so it is a topic that when I've been in Bible studies before in years past, and we'd get to a passage and it'd talk about fasting, they would basically skip over it. They would basically say, well, we're not going to deal with the issue of food. We're just going to talk about fasting from TV, or fasting from your cell phone, or fasting from whatever. And those are good kinds of fasts to do once in a while too. But to not even touch on what Jesus was trying to probably say, fasting from food and different things like this, I just thought that was kind of odd. So I think it's an area that's lacking. And so we're going to spend a few weeks delving into what does the Bible actually have to say about fasting, and why in our culture, we have so much food. It's really rare when you hear about someone fasting unless they're sick. Like when I had whatever that crud was, there was a day that I didn't feel like eating at all. And so I didn't eat. And so that's about the only time that people really seem to fast. What is it? And there's so many different kinds of fasts. So I think we'll deal with what the Bible has to say. We'll turn that into a Bible study. And then some of the different kinds of fasts and how we can utilize them, things you need to know before you just delve into a fast. We might do those things in the nutrition or the health part. And so it might cover both areas. So anyway, but another really big area that we're going to start covering today, I have a feeling we're not going to make it through all of this because there's a lot of stuff in my notes, is gut issues. And all of us, I know, have dealt with different gut issues through the years. Some of them are, not necessarily chronic, but every once in a while you get the diarrhea or you get the constipation or whatever. But then it gets into other things that can be really, really devastating. You've got the leaky gut issues, you've got SIBO, you've got IBS, you've got celiac. The list goes on and on. They have just all of it. They keep coming up with more things, and they all have to do with your gut. And a few weeks ago, we were talking about how 80 to 90% of your immune system is in your gut. If your gut is off, you're going to have trouble with your immune system, and you're going to catch whatever's out there. You're not going to have the ability to fight it off. So I think this is an important area to go into. There's one term called leaky gut. And before we get started in this, I just want to go into what that is, because some people call it leaky gut, some people call it other things. But there are a number of studies out there that indicate that a lot of the allergies out there today are connected with leaky gut, okay? And if you have a leaky gut, you probably have allergies, okay? So what this leaky gut is you have a lining along the sides of your whole intestines, lined. And then there's little villi and different things like that. There's things that what causes the leaky gut, things cause it to spread apart, and then particles of food that are undigested leak through because there's holes now where it was supposed to be closed up so that only microscopic stuff could get through. But when it gets spread apart, then larger particles go through that should get into your bloodstream. And when they get into your bloodstream, since they don't belong there, your system goes, wait, what is this? And so they start building up antibodies and doing all this stuff. And that's where a good portion of the allergies come from, is from things getting through to the bloodstream that don't belong there. Okay? And if you can repair that leaky gut so that things are no longer going through, most of the time it takes away the allergies. And you can reverse a lot of that allergy stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, but that's kind of what it is. So these foods or proteins in the foods are crossing through that intestinal wall and getting into the blood system and causing reactions. There's differing opinions out there as to what causes leaky gut. And my thinking is there's probably multiple causes.
Isn't that like stress and ulcers?
Well, it can be. That could help lead to it too. But it's going to be stuff that's going to cause that lining to thin out and stretch apart so that things can get through. Holes get in it. One of the things that people have said probably is a very leading cause of leaky gut is gluten. And that's very, very likely that gluten is not something that's easy to digest, and if we don't have the right enzymes to break it down and different things like that, then it causes gas in our system. The gas causes it to expand, which can lead to holes going through. So anything that would cause probably excessive gas or bloating, things like that, can do that. Things that would putrefy, stick to the lining of the walls of our gut, that can also lead to leaky gut. I'm just going to read this really quickly here. Leaky gut syndrome has caused somewhat of a controversy in the medical world because medical experts have found it difficult to pinpoint a definitive cause, and the symptoms experienced by individuals differ, meaning a diagnosis is often hard to conclude. However, the one element everyone does agree on is that the variety of symptoms that present, including a multitude of digestive issues, pain, bloating, gas, inflammation, and chronic illness, are all very real, and treatment is needed. The intestinal lining of the gut can be compared to a filter, usually allowing only good substances to pass through to the rest of the body. Having a leaky gut means that the intestinal lining has become more permeable, allowing other particles and substances to enter the bloodstream that may cause a variety of issues, including inflammation, indigestion, and pain. Leaky gut is usually a result of chronic inflammation and could cause pain, bloating, indigestion, fatigue, food sensitivities, all kinds of things like that. It's going to be covered in some of the stuff I'm presenting today, but it's a term that some people don't call it that, and so I just wanted to bring that out. What might that be? So when we get to talking about it, that you have a little bit of an understanding of what it means by leaky gut. That it just gets stretched, holes get in it, and things that are not supposed to pass through. Another definition that I want to make, is going to come up today, that I just want to make sure we understand is, what is a theory?
A theory is what you theorize something to be, but it's not fact.
It doesn't mean it's not fact. It's not proven yet.
Proven, yeah, it's not proven yet.
It is something that you're trying to find out. Is this a fact or is it not? There are also things out there that they say are facts that they actually, I believe in a lot of cases, came to the wrong conclusion. Okay? So they call them facts. One thing is evolution. They're now no longer calling it theory, they're calling it fact. And I don't believe it's fact. I believe it's theory. They have a theory because I believe creation is fact and not theory. So it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means they're still looking into it, that this could be a possibility, this could be the way it is, but we don't know for sure. Okay?
It's speculative though, and an opinion
It's their opinion.
based on
Yeah.
incomplete data.
Yeah, incomplete data. And we're going to talk about a theory today. And this doctor that I'm going to mention in here, it's actually, this is taken from a podcast where he was interviewed. And he has this theory. It's not completely proven, but he has, through the years, using the information from his theory, he has healed hundreds or thousands of people. So he really believes it's true, but he doesn't have enough scientific data to prove it yet. Okay? So, the title of this article here is called How to Heal Digestive Issues Naturally. That would include leaky gut, SIBO, IBS, celiac, and many, many more. I'm going to put my glasses on so I don't strain so much. Okay. And this interview is with a Dr. Garrett Smith. He's a naturopathic doctor. And he is going to be discussing what he calls the toxic bile theory. Toxic bile theory. And he helps to make sense of what's going on in some of these digestive things, and he offers a framework of healing them. So, the one that's interviewing him is a gal by the name of Lordy Harmon, and I love her. She loves the Lord dearly. I've been taking classes from her for several years, some nutrition classes. Hers are on cooking, but that's not what this is in today. But she's got a website called traditionalcookingschool.com, or it's .com, I think. Anyway, I've been taking classes there for a long time and learning how to make things like sourdough and things like that. Oh, by the way, that sourdough, I look at that. I made that before Christmas. I was trying to learn. They didn't raise, so they just didn't do anything. But they're not moldy. That has not been in the refrigerator. That has been sitting on my counter since before Christmas because I was experimenting, trying to come up with a good roll for Christmas. Yeah, and they're still not moldy. So it shows you that sourdough lasts a long time. It's got natural preservative in it that it's amazing, isn't it? It's not moldy. So that's all I was showing you with that, was that it's been that long. It's been over 2 months.
The little rocks.
Yeah, they're rocks. They did not rise. Another gal that is a good friend of Lordy's that I've been following too. She has a site called Eat Beautiful, and she has had numerous health issues. A lot of my brain. Where'd you go? What are those where the body attacks itself?
Autoimmune.
Autoimmune. Many autoimmune problems. And so she started researching it, and they're both using the same doctor here. But she has a site called Eat Beautiful, and she even had a restaurant for a while down in Springfield, Oregon, where she was cooking without sugar, without eating all this stuff so that her family, and teaching her family how to cook. And she's healed all of her autoimmune diseases through different things. And so, anyway, part of that was through advice from this doctor. So I'm gonna get into some of this. I'm gonna skip over some of it. And if we don't get to the whole thing, I'm not worried about it because it's stuff that I'll want to bring up, and I'll bring up some other stuff to go with it at future ones. But anyway, so Wardy says, bloating, cramping, gas, bleeding, burning, constipation, diarrhea, fatigue, rashes. Not being able to eat what you used to without feeling absolutely horrible. Yuck. Such is the misery of having digestive issues. It's no fun. You might be surprised to hear this, but in 2021, I developed digestive problems. Beyond chronic constipation and feeling more and more tired, I started getting painful digestive cramps, gas, and bloating, increasing throughout the day and building up to misery at night. I concluded, based on the severity and duration of symptoms, that I was suffering from irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. I was also suffering from histamine intolerance that caused itching, headaches, and hives. By eating strict low FODMAP, I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but it's eating restricted foods. You're supposed to be non-allergenic, supposedly, and really restricting your diet so that you're not causing things to flare up. That's what she was doing. And low histamine, she was eating that too. So she was only eating like a handful of foods. I was able to lessen my digestive and histamine symptoms, yet if I strayed, the symptoms came back. Yet I'm writing this now, that was in 2021, I'm writing this now in 2023. Well on the path to healing and able to eat more and more foods all the time. Not worrying about my digestive system so much. If you've struggled with any of this, then you know what I mean by worrying about it. It's a pain. How was healing possible when so many have to get more and more strict as the years go by? By following the information that you're about to hear in my interview with Dr. Garrett Smith, ND. He's also called the Nutrition Detective. Okay? And his website is nutritiondetective.com. Okay? He has joined me to talk about things. Today we're going to be asking him to share about digestive issues. It's an issue near and dear to my heart because of all of those months, actually years, I struggled with my digestion despite doing everything right, or so I thought. Digestive trouble is what led me to seek Dr. Smith's help in the first place, but actually he's helped me with more than that in a little over the year that I've been working with him. Dr. Smith, known on social media as the Nutrition Detective, is a licensed naturopathic medical doctor in Arizona. Anyway, he's worked in the medical field for over 15 years, and currently he practices medicine virtually, which means over Zoom, and other modes and stuff, and sees patients through his private consults and online community. His approach is unique because he takes a look at a person's individual vitamin, mineral metabolisms through simple hair tests and blood tests. Okay? I can't think of another doctor who is so thorough and careful to take everything about his patients into consideration. It's so refreshing. Based on the test results, he helps his patients remove toxins and improve nutritional deficiencies to help them heal from the simplest to the most debilitating of issues. In this interview, we're going to look at how addressing our toxin and nutritional status can heal our digestion. If you or someone you know that is struggling with digestive issues, like IBS, IBD, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, constipation, diarrhea, and there are so many more, please pay attention. So, I'm going to skip that. The background. When Dr. Smith first became a naturopathic physician, he did what a lot of other doctors do and started grabbing onto different theories, going through phases of thinking that all human disease is connected to one cause, perhaps candida or heavy metals. The problem is, and anyone who has tried a variety of different diets or supplements to fix their health struggles can attest to this, that most things don't work. Maybe it worked for one person, but it doesn't work for you. Have you been through that? You go to something and someone says, this, look at, I lost 120 pounds with doing this, and it healed my da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you try it, nothing happens. I went on something last year that looked like it should be very healthy for me. It sounded very healthy. I did the green smoothie girl detox last winter. And a couple months later, I started gaining so much weight, and I put on 10 pounds and 2 inches in the waist before I finally got it stopped. But I'm going, but that sounded like good stuff. It sounded good, and look at how many people were losing all this weight. But it didn't work for me, it backfired. Yeah.
And did they really lose it?
Yes, some really lost it.
Oh, okay.
And some have kept it off for years and years.
Okay.
But it didn't work that way for me. One thing I want to mention is everyone needs to be their own detective, because we are all different. God created us all different. What works for me won't necessarily work for you. It might, or you might have to tweak it a little bit different for you, because your body is different. So you have to be a good detective. And I have not done this, but one of the best things you can do is, I was listening to someone the other day, and she was writing down everything she was eating and then what happened afterwards. To help figure out what is causing me to have this issue. And so every time it flared up, she could look back and go, I ate this, this happened. Later she ate this and the same thing happened. And she was able to really reverse a lot of things. So you need to be your own detective. If you go to the medical doctor, they're not going to do it for you. They're not. They're going to give you a pill and send you on your way and hope it does something. And they're only treating your symptoms, they're not treating the cause, and therefore they will tell you there is no way to reverse most of these things, like diabetes and all of these different things. You can't reverse it, you just got to manage it. Okay? But I'm telling you, God gave us amazing bodies. And He has made our bodies, He created them to heal themselves if we will allow them to do that. But if we're not dumping, like that picture that we had, you know, that basement that was all flooded that we talked about, you know, if we're not continuing to put the bad stuff in and we find some way of getting the junk out and some of those things, if we can start reversing that process, our health will start improving. But be your own detective. So, in the doctor's words here, I think that if what people are doing in medicine, which is the mainstream or alternative, was actually working, there wouldn't be so many sick people. I think a lot of the things people do for their health are actually making them sicker. Even the things championed on the internet, okay, can be making you sicker. I've always been very big on 2 specific parts of the naturopathic oath. The first being to do no harm. I'm not here to make people worse, so I prescribe very simple things that shouldn't cause problems. Diet, very basic supplements of essential nutrients, and helping people get rid of the basic toxins. Okay? The second is to teach the principles of healthy living and preservative medicine. I am here to teach people what to do for themselves so they can learn their body and they can see what works for them and what doesn't. That's my philosophy. Are digestive problems a lifelong sentence? No, they're not. I find that gut issues seem to be one of the first to heal for most people because the gut actually turns over its cells very quickly. If we start getting the right programming into the new cells, then they are quickly able to replace the old cells. Different parts of the cells in different parts of your body all heal at different rates. They all have a lifespan that's different. Some are months or years, some of them. Some of them are days, maybe even hours. One of the things that heals extremely fast is your eyes. That's why if you get something in your eye and it scratches it, you notice a couple of days later, a lot of times it's already healed and gone. It turns over it heals very quickly. Your gut is another thing that heals fairly quickly. One exception to this is the autoimmune conditions like celiac disease. Your immune system doesn't just get dumb. There's a reason for it. Maybe the body is trying to get toxins out of cells, but even autoimmunity can get better. It just takes time. Undoing decades worth of toxicity and nutrient deficiencies is a marathon, not a sprint. After going through all the different phases himself and beginning to recognize patterns, Dr. Smith believes the theory that is very close to, if not the unifying cause of medical problems is toxic bile theory. This is the idea that chronic disease is caused by an excess amount of toxic bile in the body, either leaking where it shouldn't or simply being excessively toxic. We'll explain why bile is so toxic below, but the gist of it is that the liver manages bile production and flow. Going in the wrong direction here. When cholestasis or liver injury happens through things like exposures to toxins, whether plasticizers, pesticides, supplements, or certain medications, the normal bile pathway can be disrupted. Most people can pinpoint a time when their digestive problems got worse. Maybe they had to take a medication, or maybe they went on an extreme diet. Maybe it was a supplement they took. In all these cases, it is likely that liver injury occurred. I remember the first time I ever really heard about bile was right after Jonathan was born. I had an emergency C-section because Jonathan, his head was so huge. I had been in labor for like 18 hours and he still was not coming. And so because of different things, we went in. I was planning on having him home, but it wasn't working. So we went in to have an emergency C-section done. And I was in the hospital for a whole week because I got a bowel blockage afterwards from the surgery. And so I wasn't released for a whole week. And I came home and stuff was coming up. I was this yucky green stuff. And I'm going, this isn't the flu. I've never had flu that's green. It was awful. And it tasted awful. It was just horrible. And when I went in for the recheck, I asked the doctor, and she said, oh, that's normal. It's just the flu. I'm going, that was not flu. And I didn't know what to do, but there was a gal in my church who was a physical therapist. And she said, I know a doctor. She sent me to another doctor. And he says, you've just got your bile going the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. He says instead of going out your elimination like it's supposed to, it was coming up into my stomach. Mm. It was just reversed. He says, all you gotta do, go home, eat a bowl of All Brand, and it'll correct it. And it did. It never came back, but it got it going the correct direction. But that was his advice. He didn't give me a pill. I was really happy. He knew what he was talking about, and my other doctor did not have a clue. So, anyway, in essence, toxic bile theory makes sense of leaky gut theory. Of all the different gut microbiome theories and the gut problems that are usually attributed to them. So we're going to go into a little bit of that. The liver does three major things in the body. First, the liver filters toxins out of the blood to protect your other vital organs like your heart, your brain, etc. Everything you put into your body, for better or for worse, has to be processed by the liver. It all contributes to the wear and tear on your liver. Second, the liver is a storage depot for toxins. It accumulates lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, vitamin A, which I don't believe is actually a vitamin, copper, manganese, lots of things which I believe are often not needed by the body and are toxic to the liver. If it can't get rid of them fast enough, your liver has to hold on to them. Think of it this way. If you have so much work to do that you're not keeping up, papers are accumulating on your desk. You cannot do the work, so you go through it as you can. You're accumulating papers or emails. Your liver is accumulating toxins. Your goal as time goes on is to hopefully cut down on that pile of work and get it done correctly so it doesn't cost you your job. If you just threw papers everywhere and didn't have them in order, you'd cause other problems. If you lost the papers, you'd cause problems. So you have to keep them and organize them. The liver does the same thing. It stores toxins for later processing. Okay?
For later what?
Processing.
Thank you.
Third, the liver is a sewage or waste processing plant. People think that once a toxin goes to the liver detoxifies it or detoxes it and it disappears. No. The liver changes the form of things, sometimes into something less toxic, sometimes into something water soluble so that it can go into the blood and then to the kidneys. But the liver also does something called biotransformation, which is where it takes something that was less toxic to begin with, and as it goes through the detox process, it actually makes it into something more toxic. Mm-hmm. The biggest example of this is alcohol. Ethanol is alcohol. In alcohol gets processed into aldehyde by the liver. This is what causes the hangover the next day, or in extreme cases, alcohol poisoning. The same thing with methanol poisoning. The liver turns methanol, which is wood alcohol, into formaldehyde, and that's what can kill people. Vitamin A, which is retinol or carotenoids, actually goes through the same detox pathway as ethanol and methanol, but is turned into retinoic acids. Retinoic acids can have huge side effects. The same is true of your kidneys. We have several that we know of in this church who are having kidney issues, right? Okay, so the same is true here. Every bit of water that you drink is being run through your kidneys. You are not an infinite machine. It's only so much water that your kidneys can filter. And every bit of water that they do filter is going to have some impurities in it. There will be wear and tear on your kidneys if you're drinking water all day long. Only drink what you need. Our grandparents did not carry water bottles around them all day unless they were hiking the Appalachian Trail or something. Okay?
Can I add something on that? Jerry's mother lived till she was 99, and she never drank water.
I know.
Yeah, what water?
You hear that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So now we're going to talk about leaky gut. At some point, the liver has to get rid of these toxins. It has processed them and stored them, but it can't keep storing them forever. So it puts them into bile. Bile is the most toxic fluid in the human body. It is full of heavy metals, fat-soluble toxins, glyphosate, which is in Roundup, you know that thing in Roundup? BPA, and other forever chemicals, and more, and whatever. Anything the liver wants to get rid of, okay, goes into the bile. Where does the bile go? Ideally, we want it to go into the bile ducts, into the intestines, and then out through the poop. That's what should happen, okay? This is your biggest and best detox pathway. Only once the toxins have left your body have they truly been detoxed, right? Okay, and yet, on the standard American diet, about 95% of bile is reabsorbed into the intestine, from the intestine into the portal venous circulation, and then eventually it travels back to the liver to go through the whole process all over again. This loop is called enterohepatic circulation. It means only about 5% of the toxic bile is actually excreted and detoxed when people are eating the standard American diet. What we eat affects how much bile we excrete, and therefore how many toxins we get rid of. It would be great if bile stayed in this loop of liver, intestine, portal, vein, whatever, but it doesn't. It's the most toxic fluid in the entire body, right? So it damages pretty much everything it touches, which is all of the intestinal tract except the stomach. Research shows that it can damage the very liver cells that make bile. It can damage the bile ducts that carry it to the intestinal tract. If bile leaks up into the stomach like I had it do, it can cause GERD or acid reflux. This is how leaky gut happens. You're not supposed to have any bile in your bloodstream. But if it damages the gut lining and leaks through, or it leaks into the stomach and is absorbed directly into the bloodstream, it can then travel anywhere. Everywhere in your body that has blood, which is everywhere, can be damaged by bile full of toxins. Your brain, your bones, your heart, your digestive system, and your skin. All of those things. In a nutshell, vitamin A is converted by the body into retinoic acid. Retinoic acid is known to melt away layers of skin, which is why it's an ingredient in many skincare products, such as chemical peels. It's no wonder it can damage the gut lining too, allowing food and toxins to leak into the bloodstream. So, how to heal these things? Gut dysbiosis. By having a balanced gut flora, it is very important. That's how we can heal. According to the toxic bile theory, bile acid composition is one of the big things affecting the health of the intestinal tract. I call it the recipe of the bile. For instance, how many things can you make out of flour, eggs, salt, and water? Different recipes yield different doughs by using different ratios of the same basic ingredients. This is the same idea. You can make normal, good bile, but if it goes into your intestines and you have a messed up gut biome, which is dysbiosis, your gut bacteria can turn your normal primary bile acids into secondary bile acids. These are the toxic ones that can cause cholestasis, which is leaking bile, or liver injury. If you've ever taken a probiotic and had drastic results but weren't sure why, this is why. The beneficial bacteria changed your bile composition. Bacteria can process bile and make it more or less toxic for your situation. In toxic bile theory, there are two ways you can improve your health. One, make your bile less toxic by changing its composition, including your gut flora and consuming less toxins. Okay, that's number one. Make it less toxic. Two, keep the bile where it's supposed to be instead of leaking throughout the body. Okay? Those are the two ways to improve your health. Should we be supplementing with probiotics to achieve healthy, balanced gut flora? Dr. Smith says, I think probiotics as seeds. You're trying to grow the right garden in your gut. If the right things are not already growing in your garden, you need to look at your soil. Soil is made up of toxicity and nutrients. Is your soil toxic? Does it need a certain nutrient? Are there too many weeds or bad bacteria growing? Stop putting in the toxins and start putting in the nutrients. If the soil of your gut is right, when you start planting the seeds, the probiotics, eventually they will grow and reproduce. I do not like to supplement with probiotics, but only the right type for the right person and for the right amount of time. If you keep throwing a certain type of seed into your garden, eventually they are going to sprout and they are going to crowd out the other plants. In the same way, if you keep taking the same probiotic, but it's not helping, you may shift your gut biome in a direction you don't want it to go. If, on the other hand, you have to keep taking the same probiotic over months and years to feel better, your soil is bad. The seeds aren't growing in it, and you have to keep replanting. Get your soil right, and the seeds will not only grow, but reproduce, and you won't have to take them repeatedly forever. One of the cornerstones of Dr. Smith's approach is no shotguns. Examples of shotguns would be multivitamins, or in this case, probiotics of many different strains. Instead of using a shotgun and hoping for the best, he strives for an individualistic approach that provides each person with what their body needs. He says, the internet loves cultured and fermented foods. Are they right for everyone? Not necessarily. They are high in lactobacillus bacteria, which may or may not be the type of bacteria that you need. Use your symptoms and tendencies as an indicator of which type of probiotic you should supplement with. If you want to try a probiotic like lactobacillus or bifidobacteria, they're good places to start, but not all the time, not at the same time. I like to give a new strain of probiotics at least 2 weeks to settle in. Think about it. When you clean out a place, it gets messier before it gets better because you have to take all of the old stuff out. Probiotics are the same way. It's okay to have some manageable negative symptoms in the beginning. If the symptoms don't start improving within 2 weeks, that particular strain of bacteria probably isn't for you, okay? If you're taking a probiotic and you don't notice any improvement, stop taking it. Alternatively, if you experience some negative symptoms, but you also feel better in certain ways, that would be a sign to keep taking it if you start seeing some improvements. Again, the eventual goal is to not to have to take to supplement with probiotics. You should ultimately settle into your gut, establish them, and then you don't have to keep reseeding your garden. So now we're going to talk about a few different different of these diseases, or whatever they call it. So the first one we're going to go into is SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Even though it would seem that toxic bile is always a bad thing, it does have a function in the body. It has been shown that when there is not enough bile in the small intestine, you get overgrowth of bad bacteria. Where is the bile? If it's not following its normal pathway of liver, intestine, portal vein, liver, the clue is that people with SIBO have all sorts of systemic symptoms elsewhere. So the bile is in the bloodstream, wreaking havoc everywhere in the body. And because it's not in the intestines, bad bacteria is growing there. If you can get the bile to go back where it's supposed to be, that is going to fix the problem. This is one of the few times where taking bile acids orally, such as ox bile, often, it might be an option for someone to help get bile into their intestines. To fix the root cause, you need to, 1, heal your liver so it's making the bile again, and 2, make sure your bile isn't leaking elsewhere in your body, okay? People with SIBO can end up on antibiotics for years and years to treat the bacterial overgrowth. This may help them feel better in the short term, but remember that the bad bacteria isn't the underlying problem. The real problem is the presence of bile where it shouldn't be and the absence of bile where it should be. In the long run, antibiotics can cause liver injury, which ultimately allows bile to keep leaking, and people can experience a worsening of their symptoms. The next one is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, and diarrhea. According to Dr. Smith, there's yet another role that bile plays in the digestive tract, but it needs to be just the right amount, not too much and not too little. In one study, researchers measured how much bile was in the poop of different groups of people, a control group, a group of people with IBS and constipation, and a group of people with IBS and diarrhea. The constipated people had about 200 units of bile in their poop. The control group of people had about 500 units in theirs, and the ones with diarrhea had about 1,200 units. It's like the bile touching the intestines is the trigger for the intestines to move that poop along. Get it out of here, I don't want that here. When there isn't enough poop in the bile in the poop, people are having trouble pooping. Where is the bile? Where is the bile if there isn't enough of it in the intestines? Well, either the liver isn't making it, or the bile is getting stuck in the liver and slowly accumulating, which can lead to fatty liver disease. Or it's leaking directly from the liver into the bloodstream, which causes all kinds of other things, like intrahepatic cholestasis. You'll often see constipation and hemorrhoid issues together because the bile of a certain composition leaking into the bloodstream can be connected to hypothyroidism. If, on the other hand, there's
What causes hypothyroid?
not enough of the bile,
Oh.
and also the well, you'll see it with constipation and hypothyroid issues because of the composition of the bile that's leaking into the bloodstream, and it is connected to hypothyroidism. If, on the other hand, there's too much bile, the intestines get rid of the poop too quickly, wasting nutrition and causing diarrhea. The biggest thing I recommend for that is activated charcoal. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Activated charcoal. Diarrhea responds really well to activated charcoal because it soaks up bile like crazy. Fiber and constipation. Fiber can be tricky. Does it help constipation or does it make things worse? Soluble fiber generally gels when it's exposed to water. So you'll recognize things high in soluble fiber. When you make refried beans, if you let them sit, they'll harden into a little block. That's the gelling quality of beans. If you cook oats and let them sit, they'll turn into a little oat brick. People use apple pectin to thicken jams and jellies. Psyllium husk, if you mix it with water, turns into psyllium jello. Okay? When you eat it, soluble fiber does two main things in the body. First, it triggers a bile release. It causes the liver to say, oh, time to get some bile out of here. Okay? Second, it soaks up bile. The more soluble the fiber is, the better it is at soaking up bile. Following the standard American diet, not a high fiber diet, only about 5% of your bile stays in the digestive tract and is excreted. If you eat more soluble fiber, that percentage goes up because the fiber is able to soak up more bile and keep it in the digestive tract to be pooped out. This makes soluble fiber a key part of detox. Now there's a caveat. People with chronic constipation and intrahepatic cholestasis, which is liver injury, where the bile leaks directly from the liver into the bloodstream, so that there's no bile in their digestive tract to stimulate pooping, may get even more constipated if they eat a lot of soluble fiber. When they eat fiber, their intestines send a signal to the liver saying, we just ate soluble fiber. The liver goes, great, let's make some bile and dump it. And it does, but the bile goes straight into the bloodstream instead of into the intestines. So these people still can't poop and feel even worse. Okay? In people whose bile actually makes it to the intestines, soluble fiber can help. Again, this is where we have to treat the individual. Some people feel better eating very little fiber, and others feel better eating a lot. You have to be your own detective. Check how you're feeling after you eat it.
Cindy, to go back a second, didn't you say that activated charcoal also deals with excess bile? Or did I write that down wrong?
It soaks up the excess bile. It soaks it up and helps it go out.
Okay.
It's very good at soaking it up. Another nuisance is that if you eat so much fiber that it soaks up all the bile you have and there's none left to stimulate your intestines to poop, you can feel very uncomfortable. Say you eat so much fiber that it triggers your liver to dump more bile than you can soak up and the bile starts leaking other places. That would also make you feel worse. Yet another consequence to too much fiber in your body, generally in nature, things start growing in stagnant places. Algae grows in a stagnant pool of a creek. Toxins accumulate because they aren't able to flow through. Think of your gut the same way. If you're eating so much fiber that your poop is not moving well, your digestive tract is stagnant. Soluble fiber is a prebiotic. Have you heard that term before? Okay? Prebiotics feed your probiotics. Okay? They need to be there. They're the food for the good bacteria. Just because something is prebiotic doesn't mean it only feeds good bacteria. If you start accumulating soluble fiber in your gut, bad bacteria may take a liking to it. The fiber not only feeds a dysbiosis, but once the bacteria eat the fiber, the toxic bile that is bound up is released. Men make more bile than women. This means men have a tendency toward diarrhea, whereas women have a tendency toward constipation. The sexes also have tendencies toward different dysbiosis in the gut. Of the two, which is least likely to have a good outcome if they overdo it on the soluble fiber? Women. So ladies, be very careful with the soluble fiber. Even 2 to 5 grams might really slow things down for you. You have to check what your body can handle. The soluble fiber conundrum is making sure that you're not doing too much. But if you feel better eating a lot of fiber, then do it. I generally cap it at 30 grams of soluble fiber per day. I don't see much benefit past that. Pooping is the master key to detox. In a perfect world, we should poop once for every full meal that we eat. Just like babies. Babies are supposed to poop once for every feeding that they do.
Cindy, I saw the doctor last week and I was talking to him about this. When you said that we should be pooping twice a day, he goes, you only have to poop once. So I just put it out there.
Different people listen to different things.
He knows what I eat, so
So anyway, yeah, okay. Now we're going to talk about IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. According to Dr. Smith, people who produce more bile are more prone to inflammatory conditions like these. Some people produce more bile than others. These people have the tendency for loose bowels and diarrhea, and even bleeding of the intestines, where the bile is eating away at the gut lining to the point of damaging the blood vessels. In my opinion, IBD is essentially chronic diarrhea. When I looked into it, I found that it significantly reduced a probiotic called Lactospore. Someone was using it for IBD, and he looked into it, and I found that it significantly reduced diarrhea and improved depression in people with IBD who struggled with both of those symptoms. We really know that probiotics can change bile composition. In this case, Lactospore changes the recipe of the bile so that it isn't irritating the intestines to the point of diarrhea. Okay? Celiac disease. One theory circulating about celiac disease is that it's actually glyphosate toxicity from non-organic wheat. Can this be true? Dr. Smith says, sure. Stephanie Seneff has written several papers showing that glyphosate inhibits several specific cytochrome P450 detox enzymes that turn most toxic forms of vitamin A into less toxic forms of vitamin A. In other words, glyphosate inhibits vitamin A detox. In another study, researchers tried to create a mouse cell model of celiac disease. They couldn't get the model to work until they added retinoic acid, which is what vitamin A turns into in your body. It seems that vitamin A toxicity is a critical factor in celiac disease. Celiac disease is all about the gut lining, the villi, being damaged, right? What did we just talk about that eats away at skin? Vitamin A. And what has to be present for celiac disease to be replicated in mouse models? Vitamin A. Yet another study, researchers measured how much bile was dumped in people with celiac disease when they ate gluten, compared to people without celiac disease when they ate gluten. The celiacs dumped much more bile than the control group did. One of my patients with severe celiac disease is slowly getting less and less sensitive to gluten. Now she's not laid up for 3 days if she's exposed to gluten dust. Just the dust would lay her up for 3 days. In fact, Dr. Smith believes that all autoimmune conditions, such as celiac, are fundamentally rooted in toxicity. I am almost finished, so I'm just going to go on. I'm going on to food allergies.
Okay.
How do food allergies fit into all of this? A lot of the things I'm teaching make more sense than the stories people have been told about their health. Like the idea of allergies. One person is allergic to certain foods. Why isn't that food toxic to all humans? Is it just that that person has a leaky gut caused by a toxic bile eating away at the gut lining, allowing toxins and food particles to go through and stimulate the immune system? There's quite a bit of research showing that the more vitamin A infants and young children are exposed to, whether it's cod liver oil, multivitamins, fruits and vegetables, etc., the more allergic they become to other foods. This is why you can have people who take out all sorts of foods for a month or two, replace them with new foods, then test allergic to the new foods, even though they were originally allergic to the old foods. It was a leaky gut problem in the first place. The root cause of the allergies was never addressed. Hemorrhoids. I'm sure we've all caught on by now. To treat digestive conditions, including hemorrhoids, you have to treat the root cause. Dr. Smith explains that varicose veins, spider veins, and hemorrhoids are all related to the liver being congested or full of toxins and can't keep up with them. Hemorrhoids are the varicose veins of the rear end, to put it simply. Why do varicose veins happen? Anything below your heart has to work harder against gravity to get blood back up to the heart. This is why spider veins and varicose veins happen in your legs. Think of blood vessels as a ladder with a valve to each rung. As the heart pumps and squeezes the blood up, it pushes through the valve. Then as the heart releases, the blood starts falling and the valve snaps shut over and over again. If there is too much back pressure on the valves, they blow out after a while. These are called spider veins, and you can see the dark purplish bluish stagnant blood in them. The blood is stagnant because the valves aren't there to move it up the ladder. Varicose veins are the same concept, except it's happening in the bigger vein. Hemorrhoids are varicose veins specifically in the rear end due to the liver being congested. The big portal venous system comes from the digestive tract. The digestive tract ends at your bum. All the blood is going back to the liver. If the liver is congested, the venous blood heading to the liver is like heavy traffic getting stuck at a traffic jam. The blood backs up along those blood vessels and puts more pressure on the valves. If you blow out a valve near the rear end, that's a hemorrhoid. It's a very tender area. You can wipe too forcefully and damage blood vessels down there. As we've already discussed, toxic bile can damage blood vessels too. If you're having significant amounts of red blood, that's generally a hemorrhoid. If you're having dark, blackish blood in your stools, that's generally up higher in the digestive tract. So, those are some things. And yes, if you have digestive issues or any of these things, or even the autoimmune diseases, there is hope. They are reversible, even though you will be told out there that they're not. There is hope. Yes?
In Peru, we were told to stay away from the water, which I did religiously. I just drank bottled water. But the Peruvians that I was with, they wanted to take me to a Italian restaurant, so I ate spaghetti, and I got real sick. But they gave me just something simple like acidophilus, and I felt fine later on. But just acidophilus.
Acidophilus is one of those probiotics. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can help. Okay, any other questions before we close? Okay, let's go ahead and close. Our gracious Heavenly Father, you have created our bodies so amazingly. You have designed them to heal themselves if we will allow them to do what you intended them to do. And Lord, I just pray that through these classes that we will learn how to treat our bodies properly so that we don't have to deal with all of these diseases that are coming upon so many people around. And Lord, I just thank you for your guidance, and pray that you'll continue to guide us into your truth and how you would have us to live. And I thank you for these things now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Who would have thought boiled spaghetti